Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another hybrid edition of our Heritage Wilmot meetings. I'd like to start off with the territorial acknowledgement read by member Wade Brown. Wade.
We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee and Mississauga peoples. We want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, Inuit, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thanks, Wade. Next item is minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes from our last meeting, September 12th, and recommendation that we adopt the minutes as presented. Could I have someone for that motion? Alan, second? Councillor Martin? Any comments, questions on the minutes? All those in favor? Those are carried. Next item is the disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I did not receive anything from clerks. Any other members? No. Right, moving on then. Castle Kilbride business. First item, we have the Castle Kilbride Accessibility Plan. Recommendation from staff that the committee endorse the accessibility plan as presented in report HCHC 07-23.
Thank you. This plan was created back in May to accompany our CMOG grant, Community Museum Operating Grant, as outlined by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to receive funding. Museum staff and the Township Liaison for Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, otherwise known as GRAC. We toured members of GRAC through the museum to gain valuable feedback from them and incorporate it into the plan. And then the plan was presented to their committee back in May. Although the township has always done their best from the very beginning in '93 to incorporate accessibility, we can always improve upon what we offer to the community to make sure that everybody is welcome at the museum. So we came up with a list of what we currently do and formalize that, and then also a plan of action too. So some are short-term goals, and others are long-term goals that will have probably a little bit of funding that would need to be attached to those. Does anybody have any questions about the plan?
I just want to say thanks, Sherry. I thought it was a good report. It was interesting to read it and all the things that you guys have to think about. So the recommendation is that we endorse the accessibility plan as presented in the report. Could I have a mover for the motion? Patty, and second? Thanks, Wade. Any other questions, comments for staff? All in favor? That's carried. Next item under Castle Business, activities update, and recommending that the committee receive the report for information purposes. Sherry, did you want to give us highlights on that?
We had another exciting month in September. It actually began with the CBC coming out to film. Of course, another thing about ghosts and the castle. We can't seem to escape it. It's a new show that they have, which is going to be airing in February. So we're quite excited, and we'll let everybody know when that's going to air. We also were able to get in our last concert, one that had been rained out in July. And then we've just really welcomed a lot of tourism over the month. We welcomed all the grade 10 history students from WO. They walked down, and then we curtailed the tour to what their needs were. And then we also met with the Stratford Festival Archives for our 2024 exhibit, which is going to be pairing their costumes with books that we have, childhood books that we have of Laura Louise in our collection. So we're quite excited about that opportunity for next year.
Excellent. Thanks, Chair. Any comments, questions? Alan?
I'm just looking at the September stats. It looks like 64 for this year, and obviously the pandemic really played a havoc on it. Why 2018? Was that the start of the pandemic? It's been so long.
No, it's just sometimes some Septembers we don't get schools that come out. They're just getting settled into their routine, and other times we'll go out to do things like at the fall fair to get our curriculums out there or try and get out into the community. But for whatever reason, 2018, we did not have any school children in that September. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a busy month. All right, can I have a motion to receive the report? Alan, second? Susan, yes, thanks. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? That is carried. That takes us to the end of the Castle Kilbride business, and now Heritage Wilmot business. First item is 145 Peel Street, Puttycombe House, installation of glass wind walls. Recommendation from staff that the committee endorse the installation of glass wind walls within the existing veranda of Puttycombe House as presented in report HCAC 0923. Andrew, did you want to speak to that item?
Sure, just briefly. So the report describes the work that's being proposed. It includes some renderings of what that may look like. Essentially, the Cressmans continue to invest in the core, and specifically on this property have done a commendable job investing and restoring this property over the last 19 years, and continue to do so. The specific project at this point is just to make the veranda more usable, essentially installing glass panels on the inside of the porch with all the structures being internally, so from outside you wouldn't notice a difference, so it doesn't really interfere with the historic look of the home, but does certainly improve the ability to utilize that space in 3 seasons. So essentially staff have no concerns and would recommend that it be appropriate to approve this addition to the property. It doesn't change the structure permanently. Those wind walls could easily be removed in the future, and as such doesn't really impact the heritage significance of the home, but certainly helps further invest in the property and make it a continuing good opportunity for them in this location. So I'll leave my comments at that, and Mr. Cressman is also here if you have any questions.
Excellent, thanks Andrew. Any questions from the committee for staff? Alan?
I think it looks great. I think it looks great. Just a question on how are you going to cool it in the summer? It's going to be like a greenhouse.
They do open up, so it just slides. It's all seamless glass. They open up and stack. So.
And it goes from the ceiling down to the floor of the porch.
Down to the floor.
Yeah. Cool.
I had that question too. I was going to ask if they come out in the summer. Anyone else? All right, I agree. I think they look great, and thanks for the staff report and overview. So the recommendation was to endorse installation of the glass wind walls as presented in the report. Could I have a mover for that motion? Patty? Second? Councilor Martin, I think you were first. Any other final questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item was 6.2, Heritage Permit Process. Recommendation that the committee receive the report for information purposes. Andrew, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you. So this report is just essentially to clarify the process of reviewing heritage buildings, whether they be designated on the non-designated list or within the Heritage Conservation District. There have been different processes as of late, and certainly we're trying, from a staff perspective, trying to clarify the process and make it more streamlined and transparent to all involved, both the individuals applying and also the committee. So essentially this report just identifies the process, which really isn't changed from what has been the practice. It's just, it's more clearly documented in this case, and ultimately emphasizes the staff role in reviewing and communicating with the committee. So the committee is certainly involved in the review process, but the point of contact from individuals would be through staff to the committee, and likewise communication at the end of the process is from staff back to the applicants. So it essentially is a kind of an in-out process. There is an application that they would apply. Staff would then review for completeness, and when required would circulate that material to the committee for review, and ultimately provide a recommendation as to whether staff feel it's appropriate, and the committee would then weigh in on that as well. So essentially the report does go through the different processes of demolition or alterations, when the committee is notified, what documents are maintained by staff for the township purposes, and ultimately I think all the material is in there. I'm not going to go through each individual aspect of it, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review it, and it's clear. If something remains unclear, then now is certainly a chance to get those questions answered, and we can make sure that going forward this is works for everyone involved.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate efforts to formalize the process and the overview in the report too. I think it'll be helpful. Any questions from the committee? I had a couple. I was just curious when the online permit portal, I guess, would be live.
It'll be live within the next month. Okay. It isn't that involved. It's just prioritizing time right now. It just takes a little bit of time to formalize it there. So, but it won't take long to pull together when we have the opportunity to invest that time. So I would say, what are we at? Yeah, by the end of October or mid-November, for sure, it would be up and going. Yeah.
And that will negate the need for a separate permit form. I guess everything would just be done through the website.
Yeah. So through the website, we'll use there's a module that's tied to the website called Form Builder, and it allows you to basically have all the material entered. They can upload documents, and there's payment provisions and everything all looped into it, so they would file their application. What we typically do with other applications that we utilize that process, we have a checkbox first to see if they've connected with staff before filing, so that essentially we verify that A, it's required, B, that there's no red flags that would be a waste of time for them to process that application. Mm-hmm. And then, so basically they check that off and then proceed to enter the information, upload the documents, and it would then be circulated. It automatically is sent to staff when submitted, so.
Okay. And the other question I had was just on staff, I guess, liaison person. That'll be development services versus Castle?
Correct, yeah. Okay. So the heritage component will fall into the development services umbrella. Certainly we rely on Sherry for her expertise in heritage and those components and the interest, and so we having all staff involved, but mm-hmm. But the tie to the development approval and building permit process makes it a logical fit within the development services.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Alan?
When would you get the permit? At what point change the building? Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, so we went through it in the report. There's some information there about, when it's required. Ultimately, yeah, like a building that is designated on the Heritage Act. So if there's an alteration to it, or if you were to propose, demolition, there's other things tied to that. Likewise, if you're in the Heritage Conservation District, if you're altering the outside of it, in any way, basically that triggers so the permit process is essentially replacing the email or phone call we would have got in the past, which they may still do, and it formalizes and there is a small application fee tied to it to represent the staff time involved in processing that application. So it's, the word permit is used, but it's essentially it's essentially a review as it exists today. It's just it'll assign a number to it for processing and recording purposes, but it's not really it doesn't really change it from where it is right now. It's just it's for documentation purposes more than anything else.
When I've applied for permits to say do a basement,
Yep.
you have to put the plans in and
Yep.
get that all approved. It's the same idea. Materials in this case going to be used. Colors. Is that
Yep.
that's the idea?
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent. Anyone else? All right. So the recommendation was the committee receive the report, HCAC 1023, for information purposes. Could I have a mover for that motion? Or recommendation, sorry. Councilor Martin, and second. Wade? Any final comments, questions? All in favor? That's carried. All right. Next item was 6.3, 1522 Bethel Road. Verbal update from the subcommittee on status of the site visit and artifact collection. So for everyone's benefit, Patty, Allen, and I visited 1522 Bethel Road 2 Fridays ago, I think it was. Met with the property owner, also viewed the condition of the trim and woodworking around the house, and chatted with her just about mechanics for how to get material. We did get a section of the trim that was broken up, and it's in the box beside Sherry, as well as one of the drops from the edge of the roof as well. So everyone's welcome to take a look at that. And those were the ones that she had available right now. And what will happen is when the work gets done on the house, we will be able to get one of the drops that's in a bit better condition when they remove it. And also they're going to take a full section of the trim off of the roof forest too. So we can have that to put in the township archives. And then at some point in the future that could be available to have the material replicated and reinstalled on the house. And yeah, but we picked the side of the house. The west side was a bit better shape, and rather than take it off there, we thought it was appropriate to have the contractors take it off when they do their work. So I'm not sure quite timing on that for township staff, but I guess we'll be in touch. I think that was about it. Anything I missed? Those who were there? All right. So that was the update. I guess stay tuned for the good versions of the trim, and I'll go from there. 6.4, Bridge Commemorative Plaques, verbal update from the subcommittee on status of plaque wording and location, discussion with township engineering staff. So update from the subcommittee. I know Yvonne was away. Oh, Patty? Okay.
So Al isn't here, and we just haven't met, so I'm sorry, but there it is, okay. We talked about, Yvonne and I have talked about it a bit, and it seems like things will go along nicely, but we need Al here, which he will be, so That's where we're at, I think. I'm sorry.
All right, thanks, Patty. We'll look for an update next meeting then. Was there anything from township staff on that? I didn't.
No, only thing I would just say is as soon as we can move that ahead, there's a financial piece tied to the installations that's available for the project, but won't be there forever. So, yeah, I recognize, I think Al had mentioned they're closing up the cottage or whatever, so hopefully within back we can expedite those discussions a bit. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Next item up was the Register of Non-Designated Properties. Recommendation was to accept the proposed property owner communication and talking points included as attachment A, and the subcommittee appointed proceed to contact the top 3 properties set out in the report. And Andrew, did you want to speak to that item?
Sure, briefly. So staff did review the drafts and made comments, and the version that's attached to the report is what, from a staff perspective, we feel is appropriate for the committee to communicate. I think one thing we've indicated, ideally, that communication going forward would start with like an in-person, if possible, to meet and provide a copy of the letter in person to them. One of the reasons we're suggesting that is just to expedite the process in as much as possible, right? So we don't send a letter and wait and don't know if they've received it, to make sure there's wherever possible, have an actual point of contact with the person in person over the phone. And that will allow kind of the results to be known as to whether they're interested, so the committee can then proceed either to contact more properties or to proceed with, moving towards a designation process, knowing that there's a time frame at the end that the committee's working with. And but other than that, I appreciate the subcommittee's work, and those letters and communication are attached to the report for everyone's comments, and go from there.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And I appreciate you guys putting the kind of comments and questions into a bit of a standalone document. I think that'll be useful. Any comments, questions? Alan?
Excuse me. So if out of these 3, let's say 2 of them say, no, we don't want the designation, are you going to move down the list of the properties that we had looked at to see what's like next? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so the original kind of work plan that was given to the subcommittee was to do exactly that, to start with this, see what happens, and then go continue down the list would be the idea. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Anyone else? All right. So then we have the recommendation to accept the communication and talking points, and that the subcommittee proceed to contact the top 3 priority properties as set out in the report, and attempt to do so in person or by phone initially, and then follow up with hand-delivered or mailing the letter. And I guess I'd also add if we have email too, then we could email them. Could I have a mover for that? Mover for the motion? Patty, second? Wade? Any final comments, questions? All right, all in favor? That is carried. Next item is 6.6, library repairs. Update from staff on the status of the project. Andrew?
So this is a question that Yvonne had at the last meeting, but she's not here to receive the benefit of it, I guess. But ultimately, the Community Services Department had retained a consultant to look at the status of the supporting structures for the pillars, and they have determined they need to be repaired. So they've put together a plan that will be considered as part of the 2024 budget to look at what's needed at minimum. So in terms of repairing the structural aspects of those pillars. There's also a number of repointing of stone across the front of the building that's deteriorating in general at the lower part of foundation. So, and then just installing a bit of a curb per se on the steps going up so that the salt doesn't deteriorate the beams or the supporting structure for the posts in again. That seems to be what the issue was salt damage, eroded the mortar joints and everything else to do with the stone supporting structure. I'm paraphrasing a bit. I'm receiving this from our community services staff, but so that would be the first point. The other component dealing with repainting of the fascia and soffit at the top of the building, some other repointing of stone and brick is certainly on kind of the wish list and would be something that would, if there was budget available to do that, would be something that they'd be hoping to move forward with. So it's my understanding that through that 2024 budget process, the recommendation will be for, kind of what the minimum amount that has to happen right away, with the other components being, there if there's budget to secure the completion of that work. Once that budget has been determined, the actual proposals for all the work that's being completed will be brought back to the committee. And that was what we had discussed originally. Once we know what the budget is and what's proceeding, before it actually proceeds to completion, this committee would have an opportunity to review that to make sure that, there's no concerns with the scope of work. But it's our understanding, and certainly my discussions with community services staff, is that it's essentially, once it's replaced, will look the way it looks now, only it will be structurally sound.
Excellent. So I guess the first chunk of work would be on the pillars themselves. And you mentioned putting the curb along the steps so that further damage doesn't happen. And then I guess the second phase would be the additional repointing and painting of the trim up at the top.
Yeah, and there was some stonework across the front of the building, like around the foundation level, on the Huron Street side, essentially. That's my understanding, that Amber had explained that work would be as part of the structural repair for those pillars. That stonework would occur at the same time, as kind of it's all tied together to a certain extent. But then, yes, the painting of the soffit and fascia at the upper part of the buildings, some of the maybe trim work around the windows, those sorts of. And I think the other thing that had come up in the past was the ladder at the back of the building that's currently yellow, having it painted to match. That's all tied into that, that work that would be as budget's available type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Andrew, for that update. Any questions from the committee for staff? All right. Next item, Heritage Day 2024. Just verbal discussion about planning the event. I know we mentioned it briefly at our last meeting. We'd like to do a Heritage Day event. It's coming up quick, so we should decide what we'd like to do and date and all that fun stuff. I don't know, Andrew or Sherry, did you have anything you wanted to add on that? No? All right. Open it up then to the floor. We'll look at dates, and if sometimes in the past for new members we've had a theme for Heritage Day. So if there's a certain aspect we'd like to touch on, we could do that. But I'll just open it to questions or comments. In terms of time, it's usually, I shouldn't say usually, we've done it in the past on a Saturday towards the end of February, whatever that Saturday ends up being. Last year we did an evening thing on a Thursday, so we could look at either option. Alan?
What about kind of tying it into Family Day in February? If February is the time frame you're thinking, people are off, give them something to do.
Yeah, and I think Patty and Marg, has it been the Family Day weekend we've done it before, or the weekend after?
The last Saturday. I was just trying to look up when Heritage Week is this coming year, because they don't always coincide, I think. One being like the last Saturday and the other being third Monday or fourth, what is it?
Yeah, let's get to see a Monday.
February 20th to the 26th, 2024 is seems to be maybe one that
Yeah.
Heritage Week would be.
Okay. So then I guess official Family Day would be the 19th.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, so it could be the 17th, so it's with the Family Day weekend, or the 24th, if we were to look at a Saturday. I suppose we should see if we want to do it in New Dundee, if the venue's available. That would be the first thing. Councilor Martin?
February is also Black History Month, and I'm hoping that there could be some kind of event here in the township recognizing Black History Month. I don't know if there would be any interest in considering the two events together, or there is some history that has been discussed in a few places, but it's not really Wilmot Township, but the Queens Bush settlement just to our neighboring township is an area that has been had been a black settlement. In Hawksville, they did put up a big monument from I think it was 1874, but I might be confusing the years. And that monument was just put up within this year, recognizing a picnic of a few thousand people around Emancipation Day. So, as I say, I don't know if we should keep the two events separate, but it's just something, as I brainstorm, I think about wondering if there's a connection between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Sherry, I'll put you on the spot a little. Do you know if the township's doing anything for Black History Month yet? Or are things being worked out still?
That I'm not aware of.
Okay.
We actually have a new communications manager that has just started, and I'm sure that will be part of their package agenda. And yes, we'll see what she brings forth.
Great. Any thoughts around the table? Patty?
I just did look up, at least I know this, that our last Saturday one was Saturday, February 22nd, 2020, just before COVID really closed things down here. So,
Yeah. And that was probably the end of the week of Family Day. Okay.
Yeah, the Saturday.
Well, that's good to know. Marg?
Hi, the last Saturday in February is the 25th. Would that work?
I think so. Pending availability of the venue, we'll have to check that.
Sure. Where would we be going? Haven't decided.
I think that's open for discussion. I
Yeah.
think that would be ideal, would be the date, and I think ultimately what we're just saying as a starting point here is let's pick a date and possible location, and then the recommendation would be to appoint a subcommittee of, up to 5 people to kind of discuss the topics, and
Okay.
What we've heard here is a good idea, but anyway, that would be the next step, right? To get that subcommittee to work on the details and come back to the committee as opposed to, the discussion necessarily here. So it looks like Saturdays at the 24th would be the last Saturday in February.
I like that. Yeah, it is the 24th. Oh, the 25th was this year's February. Okay, so Saturday the 24th. To have an on Family Day or the Saturday? Okay.
I was thinking, why not tie it right into Family Day?
Oh, like the same weekend?
Same day.
Oh, the same day, like the Monday?
Kids are off. Kids
okay.
are off school, gives them something to do.
Yeah,
It might boost attendance.
that's true. How does everyone feel about that?
That
I
would
like-
be the 19th.
19th?
I like that idea too. It's always, I think it gets it back into what they call Heritage Week, probably. And, that's a good idea, I think.
Could we have two options depending on room availability? Either actual family day, the Monday, or if that's not a possibility, then the Saturday after that?
Do you know where you would like to host it? So we can probably work backwards then to see if, if there's anything in the works in terms of municipal programming already happening on Family Day, to make sure we're not, maybe there's space at that same event to host it, or to make sure we're not conflicting, I guess, would be the case. But I don't know where you're hoping to have that, but.
I guess I just defaulted to New Dundee Community Center because we've been there quite a few times. It's a good spot. There's a kitchen there, and it's accessible as well. Open to thoughts otherwise, though. Patty?
It's always been really well attended at New Dundee, and people we've spoken to have really liked it there, so I don't, it's an idea anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea, I think. It does put it on a stat holiday if we'd put it that day rather than just a general Saturday. So
Right.
we have to think about that one a bit. But.
Would having it on the stat holiday have any implications for staff availability for like setup and takedown, I'm thinking, or?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that and
Okay.
see what issues, I mean, from that perspective, I think we would probably, myself and others in our department would probably be able to help to make that work. It would just be more the facility location to make sure there's no issues with that. But we can, having both those dates, I think we can review that piece and have that information available for the next meeting to see what's. But if we just assume at this point that the preference is the New Dundee Community Center on the 19th, the Monday, and then we'll, if there's an issue with that location and date, we can look at changing that, but at least this, whatever the subcommittee is that has formed can start working on the actual theme and those sorts of components to get that piece rolling. And then, yeah.
So then I guess we would recommend Heritage Day held on February 19th at the New Dundee Community Center, unless someone feels strongly otherwise. All right. Time, I know we've done full day, like morning till late afternoon, and that's been a long day. I think last time we did in person, it was, were we like 11 till 4 or 10 till 3 or something to that effect? I don't quite remember, but I think more than a couple hours, but less than all day would be good. So maybe that depends a bit on, I guess, if there's any, time we have to kind of abide by. But I don't know. I think like 10:30 till 3:30 maybe. I'm just throwing out ideas, Patty.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 to 2.
10 till 2.
Something in there, yeah.
Yeah. Any ideas? Alan?
I've never been, so what happens? Is it kid-oriented? Is it strictly walking around reading things? What's it about?
It does vary a bit depending on the year. Sometimes there's a speaker, details of course to be determined by the subcommittee, but sometimes there's a speaker, a bit of a program at some point during the day. There's typically people with displays. If there's a certain theme, then property owners are invited out to bring their items related to a theme, or certainly there's always the Region of Waterloo Library and Architectural Conservancy and organizations like that come and set up booths. There's a Castle Kilbride and Heritage Wilmot booth, and often there's good lunch. Just a place to come hang out for a couple hours or a few hours.
No bouncy castle.
We did have one, there was a game theme. I don't know how far back now, but I remember going to that, and there was definitely like kids activities and stuff they had, or I think there's one that was tools, and people could play with different tools and things. So it varies quite a bit.
I'd like to add one more thing though. does the township do anything for the indigenous communities, heritage-wise? Just thinking that it's, we read the statement at the beginning, and is there anything included with the Heritage Day?
Andrew Sherry?
To be honest, I haven't been involved in planning Heritage Days in the past, so I don't know the answer, but I would say that's certainly something that should be looked at, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an open book as far as what this day could look like and what could be all involved, so I think having fresh faces and fresh ideas is probably a good thing, and kind of whatever scope of information and theme is presented is something that can be considered, right?
Yeah, Kanad, I know that we had a giant list of possible themes at some point. I don't remember all what was on there, but yeah, anything's option? Sherry?
I was just going to say that I think we're forgetting that last year for our talk that you did for Heritage Day.
Yes.
It was centering around the indigenous discoveries from this particular area, and it was from an archaeological standpoint, and that was quite an interesting talk.
Yeah, my mind just went to the daytime things in New Dundee. All right, any other thoughts? Oh, I guess we should appoint a subcommittee. I think that was the other part of the recommendation. Yep, I had to flip my page. So who's interested in helping to organize Heritage Day stuff? I think, Andrew, you'd just be looking for volunteers from the committee.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't exceed 5, then that's fine. That's
Okay.
just so we don't have quorum.
And I guess we should check with Al, Yvonne, Ren, and Colleen too, to see if they're interested. If anyone's super passionate now, you feel free to volunteer, and then we'll reach out to the others who weren't here today. I'd definitely be interested in helping. So I can put my name on the list. Maybe we'll email after tonight and just see if we can get a sense from the others of who would like to be on as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Like if no one else is kind of saying at this point that's it. I mean, yeah. The idea is just to get something. One of the comments we received from committee members in the past is this forum makes it sometimes difficult to plan and discuss openly, and so kind of providing a smaller focus group allows for that kind of more easy conversation than maybe what occurs in this forum.
Yeah.
So the idea was just to push that forward so that that group can start working and start discussing and kind of bring back a work plan. So, but I recognize we're missing a significant number of people from the committee tonight, so that's fine.
Okay. Patty?
Yeah, I'd help with that.
Okay, great.
I can also help depending on the timing. I'll do my best to help. I was also curious though about your comment, Andrew, about quorum. So you're talking about quorum with regards to this committee, the Heritage Committee, and the number.
So if we had more than 5 people in attendance from the committee at a meeting to discuss something, it would be considered to be a meeting, and then it would have to follow protocols for the committee. So that's where we'd have to keep the working group to 5 or less. Susan as well. So that would be 4. So we can have 1 additional person.
Great.
So if we want to start, maybe if we just thought to appoint those 4 people, and then if everyone on this committee is okay with adding another person, if those that aren't here, if one of them wants to participate, we can just maybe include that as an open, say we're okay with appointing whoever that one person might be, and then that group can start discussing.
Okay, that sounds good. So I jotted down Patty, Councillor Martin, Susan, and myself, and then if we make allowance for 1 more member to join from those who are in here. Okay. Anything else on Heritage Day? All right, so our recommendation would be Heritage Day held on February 19th at the New Dundee Community Center. And time to be determined, but I jotted down kind of 10 till 2-ish, something like that. And that we appoint a subcommittee consisting of Patty, Councillor Martin, Susan, and myself, and plus one more member to be determined as a planning committee for the event, and that the subcommittee would report back at the next meeting with an update on proposed theme and work plan for the event. You have a mover for that motion? Patty?
Can I speak or
Yeah.
just, okay. I've just-
Actually, we should get the motion moved and seconded, and
on
then
the
we'll.
floor, yeah.
Okay. So Patty and then second, Alan? All right.
We just discussed when we're checking, when the facility is available, maybe checking on that Saturday of that week, I think it was, or was it
Oh, yes.
Saturday? There were two dates that we were looking at. I mean, I like that day, but if it's not available,
Right.
if there's a reason, that's,
So 19th, and then I suppose that would be the 24th, I think? Yes,
Yeah.
24th.
I think so.
Good catch. All right, so 19th or 24th. Anything else? All in favor? That is carried. All right, on to section 7, announcements, info sharing, items for next meeting. I'll just open it up to the table. I can't remember if I shared this last meeting or not, but I'm attending the Heritage Conference in Ottawa later this month. So I'll report back after that with any fun news or exciting things I learn. But I'll be there. It's the 26th to 28th. So I'll update at our next meeting. Anything else? All right. Number 8, next meeting, the 14th at 7 o'clock. And then number 9, we have a tour of Castle Kilbride Museum and the archives. I'm excited. So following adjournment of our meeting, which I think we're at that now. So motion to adjourn. Councilor Martin, we're adjourned.